So in this video, I'm going to talk you through your BuyBotPro settings and how you can potentially set them up. So when you download BuyBotPro, all you need to do is go over to the settings cog, and it's important that you do this first, so that way BuyBotPro knows everything in order for all of the results to be as accurate as they can possibly be. So this will mostly affect things like how BuyBotPro is set up, so any preferences, and also it will affect the details section, as obviously if you're entering things like a prep fee and such, obviously that's going to have an effect on the total costs, the profit, the ROI, and so forth. So the most important bit to make sure that you filled in is the basic settings. Now this is the most important. So here you can set your preferred marketplace. That could be UK, US, Germany, whichever your main marketplace is. And then you can set your VAT status. Now this is also very important. So you'll either be non-VAT registered, or if you are VAT registered, then it will be standard accounting or the flat rate scheme. If you aren't sure which one you are, basically you'll know if you are on the flat rate scheme 100%. So if you are not on that, then it will most likely be standard accounting. Now, if you are a US or Canadian seller, obviously you're not going to be applicable for VAT. So all you need to do is select this option here, but then you have the option to enter in a sales tax rate percentage. So if you have a standard one, you can enter in the figure here and then obviously toggle that on, and that'll be the default state of the sales tax toggle. If you do switch this on, if you enter in your sales tax percentage and you happen to be working with a different one, you will also have the option to enter this in on the calculator as well. So if it does need to change, you can quickly edit that on the calculator. So it won't always be the one that is set here. You can change it if needs be, or you can come back into your settings and change the default one that appears. So it's completely up to you. But let's say we're non-VAT registered, and then you have a choice of 6 ROI methods. So ROI, return on investment, is how much you're going to get back on top of your investment. So basically you have 6 methods here, 6 sums. So method 1, profit over product cost times 100. This is the most basic way to work out ROI. I'm sure if you look it up on Google what the sum is, this is going to be the one that appears, but you have a choice of 6. Now, basically just have a look through these sums and pick the one that suits you best. So which one is taking into account everything that you want it to take into account. So if you aren't sure, we recommend, if you are a UK seller, to use something like method 4, because as you can see there, it takes a lot more into account, including VAT and all Amazon fees. If you are in the US, we recommend method 5 because again, it takes a lot more into account, so you get much more accurate ROI, and it's all VAT exclusive. But again, that's not me telling you to definitely go ahead and set those methods. Take a look through the sums and choose the one that suits you best. So let's go ahead and go for method 4. Then you have the options to enter in any prep fees, bundle fees, shipping costs per kilo or per pound. So it's completely up to you what you enter in there, depending on whatever it is, depending on what your prep fee is, your bundle fee is, and so forth. Then you can set your preference on if you are FBA or merchant fulfilled. So basically this just determines how the BuyBotPro calculator is going to load up. So if I have it switched to FBA, it's going to analyze on an FBA basis, take into account those FBA fees. If I switch it to merchant fulfilled, the merchant fulfilled toggle will automatically be toggled on the calculator, and it will calculate the merchant fulfilled way. So whichever fulfillment method is your main one, you can switch it to that as your preference. Then you have the advanced section where you can go into a bit more detail about how you want BuyBotPro to work. So you have buy price VAT, so this will determine if it is defaulted to retail or wholesale. So retail is where you enter in your buy price including VAT, and then wholesale is where you enter in your buy price excluding VAT, and BuyBotPro will work out everything for you or tell you the price inclusive of VAT and use that in its calculations. You can then toggle how you want grocery VAT to be assumed. So if you want that to be assumed at 20% or at 0%, whatever your preference is. And then you can toggle on if you are VAT exempt on referral fees or FBA fees, or maybe both. So this is basically where you have written to Amazon and you have requested to be VAT exempt on referral and FBA fees. And as long as you have written permission from them, saying that yes, you are exempt, then you can toggle this on. So if that's something you didn't know you could do, go ahead and check it out. Might save you a bit extra money. Then you can toggle on if you're enrolled in the dangerous goods program, so that way BuyBotPro knows. You can enter in any extra fees, so you can express that as a regular value or a percentage. And then you can enter in your stock capital, which is the total amount that you have to spend. and your max buy count. So both of these things will affect the suggested purchase quantity. So the suggested purchase quantity is exactly that. So once you've analyzed a product, BuyBotPro will give you a suggestion on how many it thinks you should purchase. And it's going to take into account your stock capital and max buy count. So it won't suggest an amount that makes you spend more than 10% of your stock capital. And it won't also suggest an amount that goes over your max buy count. So you might have a limit on how many you want to buy. So you can set that in there, and it won't obviously make a suggestion that's anything more than that. You then have your merchant fulfilled shipping cost options. So if you have up to 3 consistent shipping costs, if you are a merchant fulfilled seller, if there is anything that you do fulfill yourself, even if you are predominantly FBA and you have some consistent shipping costs, you can set them in here. And when the toggle on the calculator is set to merchant fulfilled, these 3 options will appear. So you can very easily just click one, select that, and it's going to use that in the calculations. You will still have an option to enter in your own custom shipping cost as well, but if you have some consistent ones, it'll be easier just to select from the options that you've set up here in the settings. You can select your European marketplace settings as well. So if you use PAN or EFN UK or EFN EU, so that way it will determine how the toggle appears. So if it's PAN, PAN will appear. If it's EFN, then EFN will appear, and you can toggle that on if you want BuyBotPro to take this into account in its calculations. You have the IOSS settings. So in the iOS section, it's going to have a list of European countries, what their VAT rates are and things like that. So then you are aware of this before you go ahead and say sell that item to another country, so you're aware of how much profit you'd actually make if you sold to that country. You can customize the table and basically toggle what you want to appear in the table. So if you aren't bothered with particular countries, if you're only selling in a couple of them, you don't want the list to be as long, you can of course turn off if you want them to appear. You can also add in a country and its VAT rate as well if you want to add something else into the table, but that is completely customizable. Then you have your Google Sheets settings, so you can basically add a Google Sheet to BuyBotPro, so that way you can utilize the Google Sheets export function. So all you basically do is add a row, open up a Google Sheet, create a new one, take the URL of that sheet, paste that in Google Sheets ID, then you can add a name, you can customize the columns in which everything's going to appear in the spreadsheet. You can toggle on auto export, so whether or not it's going to automatically export the item to that Google Sheet straight away as soon as you've analyzed it. Obviously you can add as many as you like here as well. You can also determine the sell price that's going to populate in the sell price field in the calculator. Just to make things a little bit easier, it means that you don't have to go ahead and enter this in every single time. You can set a default, so it'll automatically fill this in for you. Of course, if you need to tweak that, then you're more than welcome to. It's just going to save you a little bit more time. So if you want the sell price that it's going to analyze with to automatically be the low FBA price, if you want it to be the buy box price, the FBA 90-day average price, the new 90-day average price, or the buy box 90-day average price, whichever one of these suits you best, you can set that. You can take your merchant token from your Amazon Seller Central account. You can paste that in there. That is completely optional. And basically, if you appear in the competition analysis, it's going to clearly indicate which of the offers is yours. You then have target ROI sell price export. So basically, when you export to a Google Sheet, if you have a target ROI in mind and you want to remind yourself of that in the sheet, you can set yourself a target ROI, and that's going to appear in the sheet as well. So that way, in case you're looking through the sheet and you think, hold on a minute, this ROI doesn't quite meet my target, I can remove this from the sheet. That's what it's good for. You then have your personalization settings. So here you can toggle on or off if you want auto analyze to be a thing. So if you want BuyBotPro to automatically analyze as soon as you open it up, so instead of having to click it, it will automatically analyze the item for you. Obviously, things like the details aren't going to be completely accurate because you won't have entered in the buy price or tweak the sell price if you needed to, or toggled on any of the other bits and pieces that you wanted. It's basically just have a quick look at things like the charts, the competition analysis and so forth before you actually need to go ahead and enter anything in. And obviously if everything looks good, then you can enter in your buy price, sell price and reanalyze and then get accurate details. So it's completely up to you if you want this on. You can choose whether or not you want BuyBotPro Island to appear or the quick look box. So when you search anything up, you'll get the little quick look box underneath every result on Amazon. And obviously BuyBotPro Island is this here. So it's basically a quick summary of all of the key details from the main panel. So if you want this to appear, then you just need to toggle that on. Show extra details in the manual sourcing accelerator. So turn on to see the BSR and image slider for each search result in the manual sourcing accelerator. So when you go onto a retailer website, you open up the manual sourcing accelerator to analyze an item on that retailer website. The first thing that's going to come up is all of the results for that item and similar items, and then you can obviously get the BSR and the image. But if you say aren't having a very good day with your internet or something like that and you want it to load a little bit faster, you can turn this off and it won't show the BSR, it won't show the image, so things will load a bit faster. So again, if you have slow internet connection or something like that, that can help. Then you've got all of your chart settings here, so you can toggle on if you want the charts to appear full stop, what you want the default day range to be for the charts that it's going to show. You can choose if you want it to use a stepped BSR line just to help you differentiate the line from the other lines. You can toggle on which charts you want to appear, so if you want the bar chart averages to appear, the table averages to appear, or the seller, stock and price table to appear. You then have your BuyBotPro score adjuster settings. This is going to affect your confidence score. So this is where you can set your target criteria for what it is you look for in a deal. So when you analyze something, what do you want it to meet? So you can set a minimum profit and a minimum ROI that you want the deal to achieve, and min and max BSR parameters. So, you know, which section of that category's BSR do you want the item to preferably be in? So right now I've got it in the top 7%, but I could shift the minimum so that way it doesn't include the very top bit. And obviously I can shift the maximum if I want it to go a bit further. So it's completely up to you how you set this. And of course you can change this as time goes on, and obviously your targets will change. You can link up Profit Protector Pro here. So this is how you can get started with the BuyBotPro and Profit Protector Pro integration. So all you need to do is enter in your Profit Protector Pro email and the secret key from your Profit Protector Pro account, and then you can link that up to BuyBotPro in order to use the integration. And then obviously you can enter in your BuyBotPro license key here. And then once you have changed anything in your settings, every time you come and do this, you just need to click on Save and Sync at the bottom. BuyBotPro will refresh and take those changes into account. So that is a run through of the settings in BuyBotPro. Hopefully this has helped you understand what they all are and how you want to set them up. Remember, the basic settings are the most important, so please make sure you have them set up. Then obviously you can look at the rest after that and tailor BuyBotPro to your exact needs. With that being said, let's get back to the web. Hey, so in this video, I'm going to show you how you can personalize your BuyBotPro panel, which is awesome because it is something that's going to be working with you all the time. It is your deal analyzer. It's going to be there on the Amazon page or on the retailer website if you're using the manual sourcing accelerator, and just being able to tailor it to your specific needs makes for a quicker analysis. You're looking at the things that are important to you, and it just makes it feel a lot more homely, if you like. So there's a couple of different ways that we can customize BuyBotPro, and the first way we're going to look at is in the settings. So if you come down to things like the personalization section, you can choose if you want to see the charts, what kind of charts you want to see, if you want to see BuyBotPro Island, the quick look feature and so forth, if you want it to auto analyze for you, so where it automatically analyzes the product straight away without you having to touch anything. You can also set different preferences as well. So if you want the retail wholesale toggle to be automatically toggled to retail or to wholesale, if you want the fulfillment method in the calculator to be automatically toggled to FBA or merchant fulfilled when you load up the calculator, as you might predominantly be a merchant fulfilled seller, so it's easy to have it switched that way or vice versa. And there's lots of different personalization toggles and preference toggles within the settings as you go along. So things like the FBA, merchant fulfilled, as I say, the retail wholesale, and everything in the personalization section. So you have all of that there. And then you can also minimize any of the sections depending on what you want to see. So you might want to condense, I don't know, you might want to condense the charts here, but then you might want to just leave it like that and not remove it from the panel, which I'll show you in a moment. So that way you can quickly, just open it back up, have a quick look, and then, minimize it again. So it condenses the main panel down. So again, you're looking at the things that are important to you when you're doing a deal analysis. And then this is the main way to personalize your BuyBotPro. So if you come to the very top, there's a couple of different options here. So the one I'm talking about, I'll show you in a moment, which is the section customizer. Another thing I wanted to mention quickly is the view. So right now it's on the default view, so it sits like this on the Amazon page, but you can stick BuyBotPro to the right side of the screen or to the left side depending on your preference, and it has a separate scroll to the Amazon page as well, which is a bonus. And then if we click on the section customizer, you have every single section within BuyBotPro. And what you can do here is you can turn off various sections. So once you do that, it will completely disappear from the panel until you come back to this section and turn it back on if you need it again. You can also rearrange the order of how things appear. So let's say, for example, we are a US seller. We're not going to have much need for the IOSS section because that is predominantly for UK sellers selling out into the EU. So as a US seller, we might not need that for now. So we can turn that off and that will completely disappear, saving us a bit of space on the panel. And again, just making everything a bit more relevant to us as the seller. Obviously, if we want to turn that back on, we just need to turn the toggle on. And then we can also rearrange the order as well. So let's say we wanted to see the buy box statistics just after the discount. So we've checked out the numbers, we've checked out the total costs, the profit and so forth. And then we just want to check immediately after how the buy box has been shared around on the listing in recent times, just so that we know if we join this listing and everything that's good with the numbers, how will we fare when it comes to winning the buy box, because that is one of the most important things. So let's go ahead and click on save. So now it's remembered this, and if we go below the details, obviously we need to analyze to get all of this information. So we've moved the buy box statistics below the details. So let's go ahead and save, analyze. And as you can see, the buy box statistics is now moved underneath the details. So, check this out, then I can go ahead, trigger the buy box statistics table by selecting a day range. And then obviously we can check the how the buy box has been shared around in the last 30 days, 90 days, 180 or 365. But ultimately that is a couple of ways that you can personalize BuyBotPro to your liking. And the section customizer will be probably the main one that you use, getting rid of certain sections, bringing them back when they're necessary. So you might not have a virtual assistant right now, so you can get rid of that section. When you do get a virtual assistant, you can bring it back in. And yeah, you can basically just make BuyBotPro your own with all of those various bits and pieces. It makes for a smoother analysis, a nicer workflow, and overall it's just a better feeling to, open up a piece of software that is well and truly yours. You've made it your own, and it just makes things a whole lot easier in general. So with that being said, let's get back to the web. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can mark something as a favorite, as purchased, or as replenished. So with BuyBotPro, there is a sorting system, if you like, to help you, understand what has gone on with your items as you've been analyzing them. So not only can you, of course, export things to a Google Sheet, BuyBotPro has its own system whereby you can sort things into various categories. So as I mentioned at the start, you can favorite something, and that can be for whatever reason you want to favorite something. It doesn't necessarily have to be because it is a good item. It could be because it is an item you want to reanalyze at a later date, and you can use the favorite system that way, or whatever other sort of clever little thing that applies to you that you could possibly use the favorite star for. You can also mark something as purchase. So, you might be analyzing something and you might get a bit of deja vu and think, hold on a minute, I've seen this item before. Haven't I already purchased this item? Particularly if you're looking at lots of different items, you've been sourcing, analyzing, adding things to Seller Central, sending things off to Amazon. As an Amazon business, you've got lots of things going on. So, you might come across this item and think, hold on a minute, haven't I already, analyzed this? Haven't I already, purchased this? And you can mark it as purchased, and then you can go in, check in the table I'm going to show you in a moment, and go, oh yeah, I've already purchased that item. It's all good. If it's an item that you are going to buy time and time and time again, so let's say, for example, it was something like a shampoo, or maybe just any other product that consistently works out well for you, that you're going to keep buying over and over and over. You're going to keep replenishing that item. Just to keep a track of the items that you are currently replenishing, you can mark it in BuyBotPro as replenished by using this button here. So let's say this item is a favorite and we have already gone ahead and purchased it. Assuming that it works out, we may replenish it, but right now obviously we're just going to see how it works out, so we can leave this one for now. But if we are going to go ahead and replenish it, we can always come back to BuyBotPro and select this button here. So marked as a favorite, I've marked it as purchased. Now let's go ahead and click on show all. And basically when you open this up, it gives you this table. So you can see everything that you've marked as a favorite, as purchased, as replenished. Now you can search a particular item, by ASIN, title or keyword. And you can also filter what appears in this table by selecting one of these factors here. So you can untick favorite, and it's going to remove everything that has been selected as just a favorite. You know, you could untick purchased, you can just have it on replenished, or, you know, or vice versa. You can just have it on purchase, you can just have it on favorite. So whatever way you want to filter by things, it just makes it easier to navigate this table, so that way you can get to the items you want to see a whole lot sooner. At the very bottom as well, you also have a link to the training videos for BuyBotPro. So if you were wondering, you know, how to use various aspects of BuyBotPro, what does this particular feature do, you can go ahead and check out the training videos at the bottom. But this is just a handy little list of items that you've marked as a favorite, as purchased, or as replenished. If you want to go back to a particular item, you can just click on the Amazon link here, go back to it, and if you need to change the status of anything, you can just deselect that, and then obviously that will be removed from the list. Or of course, if you want to mark it as purchased or something like that, you can also do that within this table as well. So if we open that up, we can deselect things and of course select various buttons in there. So, you know, this one is now purchased. This one, we're not going to keep up with that, so we're not going to replenish that anymore. You know, we're not going to favorite that. It also tells you when it was added as well, so what date it was added to this table. You know, when you marked it as a favorite, as purchased, that can help you keep up to date, keep tracking the items that you've been dealing with. So it's ultimately a really handy feature, and, you know, something that you can use as an alternative to a Google Sheet, or as well as a Google Sheet. You know, just instead of you trying to locate the Google Sheet that you created, you know, maybe just a click of a button at the top of BuyBotPro, you find yourself here and it's reminded you. So hopefully this is helpful, and I'll catch you back in the next video. We're going to be taking a look at the confidence score and suggested purchase quantity, and I'm going to help you understand how this is going to help you and influence your decision when it comes to deciding whether or not you're going to go ahead with an item. So you've analyzed it with BuyBotPro, you've taken a look at all of the details yourself, and ultimately the decision is up to you. BuyBotPro is just trying to help you out with the confidence score and suggested purchase quantity. That's all it is. It's not telling you, yes, you need to do exactly this, and this. It's just BuyBotPro giving you its opinion, which can be really useful, as at many times in our Amazon selling journeys, we do need that second opinion, particularly if we aren't sure about an item. BuyBotPro is going to obviously analyze all of the variables involved and then tell us what it thinks of the deal. So the confidence score is here. So it's going to tell me what it thinks of the item. It says it's excellent, and it gives me a score of 90.39%, which is good. And then if we hover over this, it's going to give us the top 3 things to consider before we go ahead with the item. Now, regardless of the confidence score, the 3 things that it gives us might be all good, they might be all a bit, or it could be a mixture of the two. So it's telling me that Amazon are on the listing. Now, this isn't necessarily always bad news. This just means that we need to take a look at their pricing and make sure that if we were to join this listing, that we make sure that our pricing is set competitively with them in mind. It's telling me that there's a good return on investment at 43%, which is great news, and the recent 30-day estimated sales have been awesome. So overall, we've got some good points there to help reassure us as we go ahead with this item. And this confidence score will work with the criteria that we've set in our settings here. So we set a minimum profit, a minimum ROI, and min and max BSR parameters to basically just have these targets for ourselves, so we know that the item needs to meet these things in order for us to go ahead with them. Now, if the item does not meet any of this criteria, obviously we're going to get a bad confidence score. Now, there's more things that will affect the confidence score as well, and I'm going to describe those in a moment. But basically, if the item doesn't meet any of this criteria, it's going to flag up as bad. We've set this criteria for a reason. This is what the confidence score is going to take into account. If it meets some of it, but not all of it, so let's say it's met the minimum profit, it's met the minimum ROI, but it's a little bit out on the BSR parameters. Let's say it's not in the top 7% like we have set there. Let's say it's just above, so as if we'd had it set to, I don't know, 8% or something like that. It's just a little bit out. It's going to probably give us an orange confidence score, say average. But then obviously if it meets or exceeds all of this criteria here, then it's going to give us a good confidence score. Obviously it's going to look at the rest of the analysis in BuyBotPro as well and use that to give us the confidence score. And things like the IP, for example, will affect the confidence score. So if we couldn't sell this item, if the IP radar is red, it's got problems, then obviously it's not going to tell us to go ahead with it. It's going to say, nope, stay away, can't sell this. And it's not a bad thing either if you get a bad confidence score. This is just what BuyBotPro does. It's doing its job. It's helping to prevent you from making a potential mistake, buying an item that's not going to work out for you or potentially lead to, issues, potential suspension, something like that. So BuyBotPro is doing its job. You then have the suggested purchase quantity. So basically, if you aren't sure on how many of this item to buy, because sometimes it can be a bit of a dilemma, you've got the suggested purchase quantity here and it's telling me 38. So it's taking a look at this item and it thinks that 38 is a good number of this item to purchase. Obviously, we can take this completely on board. We can go ahead with 38. We can go for a little bit more, a little bit less. We can use this number as a starting point to figure out our own quantity, or we can ignore it and just, work out our own. But it's there as a helpful suggestion anyway. And what this suggested purchase quantity is going to take into account is obviously the analysis, and then it's going to take into account the stock capital and max buy count. So the stock capital is your overall budget that you have to spend, so you'd enter that in there, and it won't suggest an amount that makes you spend more than 10% of your stock capital, and you can set a limit on the number it suggests. So I've set the limit to 100, but obviously it can be whatever you want it to be, and it's not going to suggest a number that's anything more than the max buy count. So if you do set any of this, by the way, if you set the stock capital, max buy count, if you change your criteria settings, just make sure that you hit save and sync at the bottom, so that way BuyBotPro can take those changes into account. So that is the confidence score and suggested purchase quantity. Again, they are there to help you and to reassure you about what you're doing with the item. Let's get back to the webinar. Hey, so in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about BSR, what it is and how it's important to look at every single time you do deal analysis. Now, BSR stands for bestseller rank, and this is basically Amazon's own ranking system for every item within each category on the platform. So every category has got its own BSR range. Now, BSR is an indicator of how popular an item is, how well it sells. So this is why it's important to check it out every single time you do a deal analysis. That way you have an understanding of how well the item is going to sell, how popular it's going to be. So that way you know how much of a chance you stand at selling this item, how quickly it's going to sell, and how well it's going to sell. So without the use of something like BuyBotPro, you can actually see the BSR for the item in the details down here. So if you come to bestseller rank, 802 in toys and games. So right away, you get that bit of information. Now, there isn't just the BSR for the item within its main category. You also need to check out the subcategory BSR as well. So within toys and games, you can probably find this item within construction sets, toy building sets, something like that. So are you getting the best possible Lego set? Is that the best possible item you can find within the subcategory? So if you have an item that you think does well with its overall BSR, that's all well and good, but does it do well in its subcategory? And if not, you might want to potentially look at items that are a bit better in terms of the subcategories. That way you can be 100% sure about how well the item is going to sell. So with something like BuyBotPro, it's going to help you out big time with understanding the BSR and how it's worked on this particular listing. So it's all well and good Amazon telling you what it is right now, but is that just for right now? You need to understand the trends and how much the BSR has fluctuated for this item. So once you've gone ahead and analysed the item, obviously BuyBotPro is going to tell you the BSR for the item in several different spots. But the one that we're going to look at the most is in the main sales chart. So I'm going to toggle off all of these other parts, and we're just going to take a look at the BSR, which is the green line. Obviously, if you don't want that there, you can toggle that off, but that's what we're going to look at. So right now we're looking at the space of 90 days. Now we can change this day range. We can look at the last 7, 30, 180, 365, or for all time since the item was first ever listed on Amazon. So what you're looking at on this line, what do you need to understand? So basically with this line, you want it to be as close to the bottom of the chart as possible, and you want it to have a lot of movement. And the reason why I say that is because for every bit of movement, even the teensiest little squiggle, that basically means there's been at least one sell for the item. It could be more than one, but at least one. So lots of movement equals lots of sells. And this is where, when you look at BSR drops, this is basically just a physical representation of the BSR drops, if you like. So if you see BSR drops and you're struggling to understand what that is, exactly what that looks like, looking at it like this can help your understanding. So here we have a lot of movement, and we can also see it stays close or relatively close to the bottom of the chart. So basically the lower the number with BSR, the better. So the item at number 1 is going to be performing the best. It's going to be selling really well. The item at, say, number 100,000, let's say there is 100,000 items within that category, it's going to be selling the worst. It's not very popular. So obviously we can see it stayed at, 500, 600, 800, somewhere around that kind of area. In recent times, it even went up to 157. That's what you get, by the way, when you hover over any point in this chart. You get a little breakdown box and it tells you what exactly was going on at that point in time. And what's reassuring about this is why we need to understand how it's changed over time, is because it's going to let us know how often it stays at that kind of BSR. For example, when it has dipped, so like here, and it's not been very good at all, 4,653. But to be fair, that is still a good BSR, so ignore me saying that. Let's say there is 100,000 items within a category. Being at 4,653 is still quite good. But even with it being like that, it didn't stay there for very long at all. And obviously we can click, drag, and zoom into that point in time, and we can see how long exactly it stayed there. Not even a day before it quickly shot back to being a good BSR. So even if we purchase the item and it fluctuates like that again, chances are it's not going to stay there very long. And if we look at these other spikes here, it's exactly the same. So it does consistently stay at a good BSR. Sure, it fluctuates at times, but it doesn't last very long at all. And obviously this is backed up by the sales heat map, which makes it very easy to understand and see. So basically the redder the better. So the more red you have on here, the better the item is selling. So in the red periods, obviously it sold really well. In the orange periods, it sold okay. And where it's white, that is where it's had like a little hiccup. And it's just not sold that great. But obviously we can see that those white lines are very, very, very skinny. And the majority of the time it is either red or a dark orange. That is very good news. And obviously, as we look at things like over the course of a year, it has remained at a good BSR for the vast majority of the year. So that's why it's important to understand the historical BSR for the items. That way it can help us predict the future for this item BSR wise, and the subcategory BSR can be found in this chart here. So you can check out the main category BSR again, and then also how the subcategory BSR has fluctuated. You can see if that has stayed consistent as well. And again, this can help you predict the future of the item, help you understand how well it is going to sell, how well it's going to work out for you. So that is BSR. Hopefully this has helped you understand. Let's get back to the webinar.